too. But yeah, hope everybody's doing well tonight. I think we're live now. Yeah, me and Joey were just talking in the background for a little bit before we got started. So Joey is the guest that I have on tonight, and we've been talking about doing this show for a while now. I think.
Yeah, I've been excited about it. Honestly, I think it's a pretty cool topic.
Yeah, and I think it's a good lean into what I want to start doing as the other show too. So
yeah, I think that's
it's a good
really
transition.
it would benefit a lot of people. I think.
So what do you want to cover when it comes to love, relationships? Where do you want to start off tonight? If we
Well, I
had
want to look at how people approach love in the modern world. Then I want to look at things like how we define love, and then um, what love actually is versus what affection is, more so like attraction. And
yeah,
and then I think I kind of want to talk a little bit about some self love too, because you really can't love somebody if you don't know how to love yourself.
yeah. Well, and then as a caveat, I wouldn't mind talking about the different kinds of love. Like the love that you have for your kid is different than the love you have for your girlfriend or a family member, or there's so many different kinds of love.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's tons of it. I mean, yeah, there's familial love, and I mean, you probably love, like you said, your child differently than you love your grandpa. You know, so there's different levels of love within even just loving your family.
yeah, exactly. And welcome everybody. We got that man stopped in and said, "You better not be cheating on me, Joey." I think that's Eric, a Quarter Brick Records, stopped in and said, "Love it. What's for dinner?" And then Brett stopped in, and then Canadian Patriot stopped in earlier. Emily, Mud Rabbit. I appreciate everybody that stopped in so far. Let us know how the audio is coming through, because before we jump in, we want to make sure everybody can hear us and see us. Okay.
Yep, we
So give us a little bit of feedback.
gotta get the message of love out to the people.
Exactly.
Clear, pristine audio.
Welcome in, Eric. It's nice seeing you again, man. Hope you're doing well. I wouldn't even mind. I'm gonna pack a bowl real quick. Get into my feng shui.
That's a great.
But yeah, let us know if you guys can hear us okay, or if it's skipping, or what's going on with it. What's going on, Emily? Welcome back. Yeah, we started a little late. Sorry about that. What you looking for, baby?
That bowl I just packed.
It's right here.
You can blame me. I had to shower.
Oh no, it's okay. I was hanging out too. We were both running a little slow.
Men.
The sound's great. Okay, cool. Glad it's working out good. All right, cool. Well, let's see. I want to start with what a relationship means to you, Joey. Like when we're talking about a relationship between a loved one, somebody that a significant other, not a family member. What does that kind of love mean to you?
Well, to me, it's something that would be lasting and durable, meaning that it's going to endure, whether it's disagreements or differences or things of that nature. It should be something that can kind of weather a storm. But also, it's not something that is just immediately received, or it's similar to the concept of the marriage box, where you need to put things into it. It's not just constantly giving. You need to put things into it in order to get out of it, I think. But to me, a relationship looks like understanding the other person, making sure that you, from the get-go, are working on communication, listening to them, and making sure that you hear their needs and their expectations, and make sure that your expectations are understood. I think that that's really important from the outset. But yeah, all in all, I think that a relationship should be about building up your partner. So it's important to have a partner that you it's not that you want to change your partner. You should love them how they are, but you want to see them elevated, right?
Yep. No, I agree. I would say it's kind of like respect. Like it just like love. I think it needs to be earned, and I think there's there's levels to it. And I think the biggest thing about most relationships, where I think people lack the most, is coming into relationships and setting what their boundaries are and their expectations. Because we before we started the idea between love and attraction, I was thinking like the difference between love and lust, because I do think there's the attraction level where it's like, oh yeah, I would be happy to be with this person, or hook up with this person, but that's not the same as love. And being able to find that balance, and then knowing what both of your interests are going into the relationship, because that's the hardest part, is getting on the same page with somebody. Because what's the saying that chemistry is certain and timing's a bitch, or something like that? Like chemistry always happens. Like you can have that lust moment where things are just working out perfect and you find yourself in the best position, but it's not always as long term as you would want it to be. Usually right. Because of compromises. It's like, oh, I will compromise some of my own interests because I want to be with this person. And it's just like, oh, then you find yourself, 6 months into a relationship, and you're like, oh, we don't even have the same values when it comes to what we're looking for in this, whether it's children, whether it's long-term dating, whether it's the relationship itself. There's a lot of levels to how to bring somebody into relationships. And yeah.
Ties back into the communication aspect and making sure that from the very beginning, you guys are able to communicate and just openly discuss your needs, wants, desires. As you asked me, you need to know what a relationship looks like to the other person, what they want out of a relationship.
Yeah, good answer, Stonewolf. He said, I'm almost 30 years of marriage. It takes a lot of effort on both sides. Exactly. And the other thing that I didn't even think to bring up is it's not something that you should expect to be peachy all the time. You will have hiccups. You will have ups and downs. It's the people that can get through the ups and downs together that I think do the best in the long-term thing. And I don't mean like abuse or anything like that. I'm just talking about there will be bickering fights. There will be stuff like that. And I always say a good test, like for relationships, is if you're in the freedom to do it. It's hard when you have kids and stuff, is living with somebody before you get married. Because you have really no idea what it's like to live with somebody 24 hours until you've actually done it. Like it's a whole different experience. Like I've done it with friends, and I've also done it with loved ones, and it's just like it's a whole different experience of how you're getting to be and interact with them on an everyday basis, because you're going to see them in their highs and their lows, and you have to know how to balance all those emotions on your own end and as well as theirs without blocking each other out. So like you were saying, it's the communication side as well.
That's an interesting perspective, and it is a good point. Although I don't know that I would say I completely agree that you should, and we talked about this before, I remember, but I don't know if I completely agree that you should live together before marriage or that you have to. I think that perhaps it would be good to have a sabbatical where you stay together for a week or two. But I think that all in all, if you move in with your partner before marriage or before forming some type of family, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of what you're saying is that you, like the two of you are sort of just accepting making life easier, and that it's kind of out of perhaps convenience. And I think that you should just make sure that it's not something that's born out of just like, we can just do this thing, like it should definitely be something that's well thought over.
Exactly. And that's why I say that the only reason I think that time exposure is a good thing is because it reminds me of like an interview. Like anybody can dress up really nice for an interview, put on a good presentation, and then who knows how they act when they go back to their house. But they're trying to present themselves good while they're with that person. You never know. Like, that's why I say that exposure on both ends, once everybody's comfortable with it, is something you need to know if you're going to move. And that's why I've always had an issue with the classical idea of marriage, where it's just like, oh, this person is a virgin until they're married. And I was like, I think that would be just as awkward. If
I couldn't really imagine that, because you don't.
I honestly would not want to settle down on my marriage night with somebody that was a virgin and never had sex before. I think that would be a very strange experience. And
Could be.
well, yes,
because we're from such a
but it's only frowned upon on the woman's side, even throughout history. Like, guys are supposed to be loyal and everything once they're married, but that's always been the weird dynamic, is a girl would be considered a slut and a guy would be considered like a pimp or something because he slept around. That's why it's not the same stigma on men that women have.
Right. No, absolutely. She's loose if the woman gets around. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I mean, ultimately, don't you want a partner who knows what they're doing?
You would think so, but then there's that weird balance of, well, how much experience is she allowed to have? Like,
right. I mean,
some guys want to be taught things in the bedroom. Who knows? I don't know. I just know I can only talk from my personal preference, and that's why I always say, as long as everybody knows what they're looking for when they go into a relationship, then at least you can get those boundaries out. Like, it's the people that sweep those under the rug just to get into the relationship.
Well, and to bring it back to your point that you had mentioned about how it's kind of like a trial period, and certain personality traits might be swept under the rug for a little bit. There is an expression that there are 3 things that cannot remain hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth.
Yeah. Light exposes everything.
Yes, absolutely.
Prospector, what do you do when a relationship gets repetitive? Want to say that one first?
Spice it up.
You got to spice it up.
Jody says spice it up.
Yeah, that's a point, I think, where you want to look at the patterns that you're doing, and then look at things that you're not doing. Like, maybe literally write a list down of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis, and then look at the things that you're not doing. And I mean, in the age of the internet, we are literally just a couple clicks away from finding relationship advice, and it's not always good, but there are plenty of spicy date night ideas. That's a great way.
It could be like spicy.
Well, yeah,
It's like switch up your things.
yeah. It's just the pattern recognition. You got to break the pattern.
Exactly.
Like, if you know exactly what works every time, try new things. Yep. Like I don't. Hope you don't get mad if I use this personal reference, but I know what would please Jody. Like, I know what I could hit like a weird order of just doing the same thing every time, but that would get repetitive and it would get boring. Like, sure. I think there's a way of keeping things more of a mystery as well. And then it works on both sides. Somebody on the other side could surprise you one day, and it's just like, or if it's like, oh, maybe the guy's in control of all of this all the time when we're in like an intimate situation, maybe to spice things up, the woman takes control, and all of a sudden it's a different scenario, and it's okay. Who knows what's going to happen next? Like, we know where it's going to lead, but at the same time, we don't know the course of action.
Yeah, change the dynamic in some capacity, whether that is changing, who is doing what, or again, you can go out. I mean, there's so many things in this world that you can find as a couple,
Yeah.
It could be as simple as doing like making dinner together, or doing the dishes together, or
any random
boring task.
Or you see her doing a task, that she doesn't like to do, and she doesn't like to do it. And then you do that for her. Like, it doesn't even have to be sexual. It could be just little things around the house. She probably have more time for sexual if you get the random tasks that she doesn't even want to do done.
No, that's exactly right. Something else that I have seen on the internet, and I think it's a great idea. It's actually adorable. It's called King Night or Queen Night. And it's where you treat your partner like a king or like a queen. So you're doing you're going to cook them their favorite meal. You're like, okay, baby, what do you want for dinner? You make it for them. You take care of like the dishes. Like, you're like basically pampering that person. So the man can do it for the woman can do it for the man, or partner, whatever, you know. So king night, queen night, I think it's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah. And then don't do it on a holiday. Don't wait until a holiday to surprise somebody.
Right.
Do it on a day. It's not a holiday. It's not their birthday. It's just, oh, it's just a random Wednesday, and I walked home to flowers and chocolates. Like,
yeah,
great.
If it's not,
it can be the person's favorite soda pop. It really doesn't need to
it's just
be
little things.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and then getting the little things right, like, you know, like, then, you know, not only does the person know you well enough to say, hey, I know what her favorite drink is. I'm gonna have her favorite drink here. I know her favorite dish. I'm gonna have that ready, and it's gonna be a surprise.
Exactly.
There's so many things to it. Bossman says, to spice things up, he says, use Tabasco.
I don't know. I don't think I would suggest using Tabasco. I would try something else.
Yeah.
They have warming jellies you can find at the store.
Exactly. What's going on, T Phoenix Tarot? Hope you're doing well. And we got a few comments. I appreciate everybody that's tuning in. And if you guys want to jump into what we're talking about, feel free to jump in with it. I want to kick up to Eric what he said. He said, I'd be honored to have a virgin, but I don't want one because I'm not one. Just saying. So it's more of a moral level, it sounds like, for you. And then love needs respect and trust to be complete, in my opinion. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So Jake, to bring it back to kind of what a relationship, from what I think a relationship ought to look like to a modern perspective, we tend to, this generation is rife with escapism, and we're constantly swiping left or right. And it's just so easy to swipe or double click on something these days. So if you have an issue in your relationship, people see the relationship as easily expendable rather than something that you should sit down and work towards a bright future on. So with that in mind, I would like to read the Webster, and I wrote it down on a notepad, but according to Google, this is the current Webster's definition of love. And there are two definitions, and it's kind of interesting. The first definition, a strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. The second definition, attraction based on sexual desire. So in our own language, in the Webster's dictionary, they are confusing already love with lust. And this is the problem with our culture, is that under the word love, we literally have a definition for lust.
I think that comes from the root of, like, to make love. Because love is interchangeable when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, love and have sex, like, because but like, I think it comes down to, like, some people define it as, hey, we're gonna go fuck. Some people say, hey, we're gonna have sex, and some people say we're gonna make love. It always comes down to, like, the verbiage of it. But I get what you're saying. Like, that can be interchangeable, and I don't think it should be. But I think we've done that for a long time. And
but to make love, then you're using love as a verb, whereas this is a noun.
Yeah.
So
verb, what you do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But I think when they say that having sex creates love, like, he was using it like a verb, or if that was to make love stronger, I don't think sex necessarily is entitled to that title. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not necessarily tied into it, because when you're talking about modern day dating, a lot of people are putting their cards on the table and say, hey, I'm not looking for a long-term relationship. I just want to have hookups. That's why I'm sliding left on these people. And that's why I'm just trying to meet random people that I'm never going to talk to again. Because I think what constitutes a relationship has been like changed over the last 10 years. I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's changed much, but people don't, like, I mean, I was thinking about, like, my grandparents, like, nobody's going steady anymore, feeling each other out and only dating one person. There are a lot of weird situations where there might be a girl that's talking to 4 different guys, and she's, yeah, it's the same guy. It's the same with a guy, and they might be talking to multiple different girls, but it all comes down to what their intentions are.
Yes, it does. And it also comes down to communication. Are they letting their other partners know that they're not exclusive? Or are they letting them know, hey, right now we're just in this dating stage where I'm still kind of flirting around, you know, like, that needs to be communicated, because otherwise you're putting your partner in a pretty poor situation, and it's simply not fair. I mean, if one person is looking for exclusivity and then you're looking for something that's more polyamorous, then that's not really, you're not seeing eye to eye, and you're not even communicating that necessarily.
And I do think there's a stigma around it, from people setting their own boundaries. Like, hey, by the way, I am interested in you. Could you let me know if you start talking to anybody else? I was like that. I think that's a normal boundary to set. Like,
It is.
people are like, hey, I'm interested in you, but I think it's frowned upon nowadays. Like,
It
oh,
is.
you think I should be exclusive with just you? It's like, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that's what I would like out of a relationship. And I think it's strange that you can't set boundaries the same way.
It has become a total stigma. And I mean, I'm not going to go too far into it, but I recently went through something kind of like that. So, I mean, when you have your own personal boundaries, that's fine. And if that does not meet up with what somebody else aligns with, then that's okay. I mean, you guys can do your own thing, but there's also no reason to make one person feel silly about it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, because and that's what people do on both sides, and I think it is a form of gaslighting in a relationship, and setting up dynamics, because it's a thing in every relationship, whether you're talking about business, whether you're talking about, you know, like a father or son or kids or whatever. There's always a dynamic that's going on in a relationship. But in a partnership, that's why I like calling it that. It's a partnership. It's not, there is no dynamic of this person's higher than the other person. They're the yin and the yang to each other.
That's how
balance each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Partners is a great term. Partnership is wonderful. And also, I think that our culture looks at codependence and is like, that's super horrible, right? And then we focus on just being completely independent, and we don't look at interdependence in a relationship dynamic. And interdependence is where you are both basically mutually supporting the other and able to do so. And because of that, you both prosper, right? So really, that's, to me, what the healthy relationship looks like. You are and vice.
Well, I think people also get a little pigeonholed when they think that the only way to support a relationship is financially or something like that. And it's like, no, there's so many ways to feed a relationship
Absolutely.
that are not based on money. And it's something that, like Stone Wolf was saying, you know, after 30 years of marriage, it's something you got to work on all the time. You can never get stagnant with it. Otherwise, it might get repetitive or it might get boring. And there is probably a period where it just gets like that regardless. Like I couldn't imagine 30 years. I haven't gotten there yet. So I can't imagine 30 years.
But as you said, there's always going to be those rough patches. All of life is uphill, downhill. You don't, in the wise words of Alan Watts, no one has ever seen a crest of a wave without a trough. You know, there's no such thing as that. So there's always peaks and valleys. If you have a mountain, you got a hollow. You know, that's just how it works.
Yeah, I don't know who made the quote, but there's something about like, if you're not with me in my low times, then don't expect to be around in my high times, like when I'm doing well. Like, yeah, I'm going to have, and that's what I'm looking for out of a relationship. Like, I want somebody that's there when I'm down, and I'm going to be there when you're down. Like, that's the support that's given to people, no matter what it is.
Yeah, you have to be able to tolerate and deal with your partner's demons, basically. Be able to handle the skeletons in the closet.
Prospector says, what if your partner is moving too fast for you?
Let them know. Just tell them. Let them know, like, hey, is there any way that we could take this at a slower pace, just so that we make sure that we're moving forward in a healthy way? I think that in any relationship, you should be able to communicate openly in that way without it actually triggering an argument, because I think that's super responsible and mature way to move forward.
Oh yeah, because if anybody's offended by it, then they're not on the same level as you, and you can't be worried about offending somebody when you're trying to match. Like, exactly. When you're actually trying to match with somebody, you can't be worried about offending them. You got to be able to say, hey, these are my boundaries. I just would like to set them. if you have a problem with them, maybe things aren't going to work out. And it's scary because you might lose the person that you are attracted to and care a lot about. Like the lust side might go away, but you don't want to give up your own morals for the lust side or just the idea of being in a relationship. Because there's a lot of people that I've dated in the past, of course, and it's like, well, they just always need to be in a relationship. There's a lot of people like that where they don't have enough time in between to grieve and take in what happened in their relationship and where the mistakes could have been made. It's always just like, oh, maybe I'm just meeting the wrong guy every time, or I'm meeting the wrong girls every time. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot for women. Like, there's a lot of variables to it, but unless you actually analyze all of the things that could have happened in a relationship and give yourself time to like pass through one, I think it's always risky to jump into a new one, because that's the whole like purpose of the term, like a rebound person. Like,
it's funny you say rebound. I was just gonna say that would literally be like, you take a shot in basketball, and then you just take the exact same shot and you don't change anything.
Exactly. Isn't that what's the definition for crazy? Repeating the same action and expecting a different result.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But no, and as you were saying though, you can't let the fear of losing a relationship stop you from speaking your truth, because if it does indeed end the relationship, then it was kind of a relationship born out of lust. And if it is a true love type situation, then it doesn't matter, and you should be able to express your truth and the other person will hear you. But speaking of all this, I think that this is a great point just to read Ching. It says, when two people are at one in their inmost hearts, they shall in the strength of iron or of bronze. And when two people understand each other in their innermost hearts, their words are sweet and strong, like the fragrance of orchids. So yeah, I think that ultimately speaking, the bond between two people who do share a true connection isn't going to be shattered simply by telling the other person how you're feeling. So
yeah, I agree with that, because I mean, if you setting your boundary, they should be ready. They should want to hear what your boundaries are, because they don't want to offend you as well. Like that's when it's working out right. Like, we're trying to match each other's energies. We're trying to sync up. Like it's just going to take a little time to catch the same rhythm as everybody else and know where everybody's at.
Absolutely, man. Yep.
I got to show this off because Canadian Patriot wanted to make us a logo for the show. And he sent me a logo on, I don't know if you guys can see this. So everybody in the chat, like, let me know what you guys think. This is actually pretty cool.
I love that.
Attraction versus love. This is made by our own Canadian Patriot. So you guys can let me know, and maybe we'll have Canadian Patriot make our logo for this show.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm down for it. I'm not against it. Definitely not against it. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
so everybody in the chat, let me know.
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot of positivity that can come out of that show, and I think it could be really fun.
Yeah, it could be fun, and then it's also because that's what I'm talking about, is that period of time where you're like, all right, what am I looking for? What happened in my last relationship? And that's actually what I'm going to try to go over with people is, all right, maybe I haven't had a relationship before. Okay, then what are you looking for? What do you want out of a relationship? And then I will make somebody break it down and say, hey, well, okay, well, what are you bringing to the table of a relationship? What do you do for a living? What are your interests? Like, and you can break it down with somebody really slow. And I think it's an honest way of getting to know somebody. And because they are very vulnerable to put like an interview like that online, I think. And that's why the people that I've reached out to, I've had 4 people say they were down to do it. And I'm going to slowly get into it, but I don't want to rush anybody or make them feel pressured to do it. Like it is kind of a vulnerable situation. And you may talk about some personal things. If you want to, you can skip over it. I've seen some people that do this type of show and they do a fit check with everybody at the end. And they're like, if you want to stand up and spin around and show everybody what you look like there's they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It could be fun.
Cool. I think we can do different things with it. I mean, there could be a segment, like maybe a 5-minute, like a call-in segment where people who are watching, you can screen a couple different people and you can bring some people on, maybe just audio only. And then they can maybe ask a question or tell us about a situation that they're going through in their relationship.
Oh yeah, if anybody in the chat is interested at the time, or if they have a question for somebody that's being interviewed, yeah, we can do an open like call-in segment of it. Like save up your questions towards the end, and then we'll have like a little call-in for each guest. And if you have a question, or if you want to put it in the chat, I'll probably have time for that as well. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be really fun. It would just be cool to interact with people in that way. And I mean, people do that on the radio, so why not do it through a podcast, right?
Yeah, I mean, if people are meshing with it, if people like it, I'm down for doing it. Like I said, I'm gonna give it a whack. I thought it was a good idea, and I also bounced it off Joey and a couple other people, and people seem to like it. So we'll see where it goes.
I'm definitely a contestant and a host.
Are you gonna be a contestant?
Why not?
I mean, if you want to, I'd be happy to. I think it'd be fun. I'm gonna catch up the chat though for a second. Boss Man, the world's handsomest man, says Archie Bunker is a great relationship role model. I don't know about that. I mean, he would be forever single in modern day relationships.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can upvote that.
I kind of agree, Stone Wolf, that like I hope I do. I want to look at everything different in 10 years. Like that means I'm still growing. I don't want to have the same ideas about things in 10 years. And who knows? Like there might be a level of, because I think you're talking about the repetitive side of being with somebody and like getting into patterns. And I think that does happen depending on how many years. Like it's hard to change things up so many times. But
sometimes, I mean, if you're a creature of comfort or a creature of habit, I think that sometimes those patterns can also become quite
exactly. Yeah, it's a safety blanket for some people. To have a regular like knowledge of what's going to happen next. Like some people don't like the surprise of it.
Right. No, exactly. No, I mean. But I still think there should be surprise in relationships.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I mean, when you know the person well enough, I mean, maybe that's just for you. Maybe that's what you like out of it. And you like to, excite somebody with a.
I think I lost Jake. Uh-oh. Where are you, Jake? Well, it looks like we're still running. So I think he just froze. He told me that his internet might freak out on him. We'll see if he comes back. I don't know if I'm still live. The host might still be running, which is cool. In case I am still alive, let's just read a section about self-love. So this is my book called The Arrow's Path. Finished it about a year ago. It is on Amazon. Let's see. There's a lot of chapters in here. Here we go. Surely there's a table of contents. Oh yeah, we did lose him. That's okay. He'll be back. I'm sure he'll bounce right back in. And then we will just edit this out. All right. So we're going to read 2 chapters. The first one that we'll read is chapter 6. I think Jake's back. Jake's back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I told Joey before I started that I might fall off.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were still running or not.
Well, yeah, no, it'll stay up. You're still running. It won't drop the stream. You'll still be on. Sometimes I'll fall off. I'm actually going to change up what I'm running on right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I saw you reading, so you're more than welcome to finish. I didn't get to hear your verse. Go ahead.
Well, actually, I was just starting, so I'm going to read the first part here is chapter 6, titled "Meeting Yourself," and then we're going to follow it up with chapter 7, which is self-love. So
Okay, I'm gonna give you the floor. I'm gonna pop off for a second, and I'm gonna reconnect with my other connection, but I can still hear you and everything.
okay, awesome, man, awesome. So chapter 6. Often your first few journeys will be spent meeting your spirit guides or angels. Accessing the lower world is, and this is, by the way, all in reference to shamanism. We're following up chapter 5, which was talking about shamanism. Accessing the lower world is done by finding a tunnel or entryway into the ground in your sacred garden, where you feel at one with nature. Accessing the higher world is done by flying into the clouds or ascending a rainbow. I suggest starting in the lower worlds to meet some type of nature spirit. Once having traveled through a tunnel or entryway to the lower worlds, one would begin looking around in an attempt, for the first trip anyway, to meet a spirit guide. Here in the lower worlds, that could be presented to you in many forms: an elemental like a tree or waterfall, or a power animal like a bear or a crow. When you meet a spirit and engage with it, ask it, "Are you my spirit guide, or are you my power animal?" and see what they say. After your interaction, thank the spirit and continue on your journey. Or if you're prepared to be done, retrace your steps back to your physical body. At this point, if playing a drum or rattle by yourself, increase the speed of your playing to roughly 8 to 13 beats per second, engaging the brain at that frequency. That's the alpha state. This correlates, I actually mentioned this, I should have just kept reading. This correlates to the alpha brainwave state, awake but physically and mentally relaxed. So you are prepared to remove your blindfold and write down what happened while it's fresh. So I think that this is important, just because you're able to use this methodology to come into more contact with yourself, with your spirit guides, but also just with what is good for you. And as you connect more with yourself, you're going to connect better with those around you, I think. But I'm just going to bring us into chapter 7 now. We're going to skip the rest of chapter 6. I just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. But chapter 7 is all about self-love. When I shared my concept behind this book, I was asked if I would be writing about self-love. This is a topic that hadn't crossed my mind as something to discuss, but it is essential to healthy living, as it is the process of treating one's body and self like the temple that it is. It is allowing oneself to relax and telling oneself that everyone deserves rest, that everything will be just fine. A simple exercise to get an idea of how to practice self-love is to write down 3 things that make you happy, whether it's a morning walk, time with family, watching the clouds, reading, or meditation. These are ways for you to recharge and to engage in activities that fuel your soul. I like to wake up every morning and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thankful for life, for love, and for this moment. I hold in my mind all I am thankful for. Thankful for family, for friends, for family pets, for good health. This attitude of gratitude enters me in my heart space, recalibrating and reorienting my outlook so that I'm better able to see the love and unity and cohesiveness within the universe. Practicing self-love can be as simple as practicing proper hydration or good hygiene, or feeding your body with healthy food. Letting your body get the sleep, nutrients, and fresh air it needs. I've read that we are basically houseplants with complex emotions. Take care of your roots, drink water, and don't forget to breathe. In relation to engaging your body with healthy, high-energy choices, it is so beneficial for one to get outside and amongst nature. To go out and walk increases respiration, increases circulation and oxygenation of the blood, and improves immune function. Sound healing and music therapy modalities also provide this benefit through relaxed, deep breathing. It's been noted in medical studies that patients with windows facing trees outside request less pain medicine and even report faster healing and patient discharge. Some of the ways I practice self-love are playing musical instruments like the handpan, biking or hiking or longboarding, painting, reading, drinking water intentionally, eating healthy foods, washing and caring for my body, and listening to music that makes me happy. And so there are many ways to practice self-love. And part of this is letting go of this idea that you don't deserve to relax or that you don't deserve this moment. When you really think about it, that is a ridiculous notion. All that we have is the present, immortal moment. Carpe diem. And the chapter actually finishes just with this little line. Present awareness is one of the most beautiful things we can give ourselves.
That's really well said. I agree with you, Stonewolf. Know yourself, or you will never know others. Yeah, it just comes down to what you want out of things. And if you don't know yourself, how are you gonna establish what you want out of something? Like, or what you need in your life, or what you care about in your life. And then you got to be able to express to others what you care about. Those are your boundaries.
Yeah.
Those are knowing yourself.
Yeah. You have to sit down and think through what you actually want. If you don't know what you want, you'll never get it.
Exactly. Because you can't make boundaries about something that you don't know anything about.
Yeah. And as far as manifesting is concerned, you just need to live your life out like you're already in alignment with that happening, and like it already basically has happened, and then it will at some point.
Yeah. Did they talk about my question? Oh, let me see. Let me double check. Sorry, I might have missed it. Okay. How do you know when to make it official? Like from talking to dating? Do you want to field that one first, or you want me to?
I can go ahead and field that. That's fine. I think that the right time to go from like just talking to dating, making it official, like an exclusive relationship, would probably be. I'm not going to put a timeline on it because I don't believe in necessarily things being defined by time, because it's just a construct. But I think that it should be at the point that you know for sure that there's nobody else that you're actually interested in, and that you both are feeling that you are fulfilled, essentially. And it may take, again, I'm not going to put a timeline on it. It may take weeks, months, but I think that ultimately it should be a move totally born out of confidence. So, yeah. But what do you think, Jake?
I agree. I think it's. I hate to like repeat myself over and over again, but it comes back to when you've established that you know what this person's boundaries are, what they're looking for in a relationship, and you've expressed what you're looking for as well. That's when you guys decide to go to like the first step. Otherwise, it is just probably lust at that point. And and like we said before, going back to knowing what you're looking for, and then putting that out front, just so you're not giving up your own values just to have a relationship. Because you can get into a relationship, but it might fall apart later because you rushed into it and didn't establish those little things. Like, there's just base levels to starting it. And I think it always comes back to those base levels of knowing yourself, knowing your partner. And if you don't know yourself and you don't know your partner, then you could probably have a lot of growing to do still.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you need to know that you both are looking for the same thing, or at least similar things. Because otherwise, if you're not both in alignment, working towards a goal, whatever that goal may be within the relationship, then I mean, you really need to focus on direction over speed.
Yeah, and I agree with that. There's no time. There's no actual time. There's no number on it. You can't. It'd be a fictitious number. Like there is no like period. I do think there's a stigma around the shit or get off the pot. Like when it comes to modern day marriage, like I think it is like I would be considered really weird because I've been dating somebody for a long time, and we never got married. We just haven't got married, but it's because we understand each other's views, I think, on marriage, and that's just our personal preferences. But like societally, like I think it would be kind of frowned upon. Like, common law marriage is accepted in like so many states. Like just me and my significant other living together, depending on what state we were, would be common law married.
I didn't know it was that simple in some states.
Oh yeah, it's actually done. I think it's like 5 to 7 years or something like that, depending on the state. And I've just never gotten, I don't know, I've never been into the idea of marriage, probably because I grew up around so many strange marriages where they were either hanging out because of family or because of like, I could tell that they hadn't established the boundaries that they should have established in the beginning. And they were in it at that point. It's like, all right, now we got kids together. Now we have, to raise this family together. We have a lot more obligations. So now our personal interests get thrown out the window, because once you're talking about a family, then your personal interests don't matter anymore. You've already jumped a step. And it's like you either play catch up or you don't let your relationship bleed into your family, because that's where I think things get toxic, is when family gets used as a weapon or something like that. And there's like weird power dynamics of like, oh gosh, like taking it to court. There's all kinds of garbage that we unleash on kids, and it's just like, I don't think kids should ever get put in that situation where they're deciding like, oh, I like this parent more than this parent, or this grandparent more than this grandparent. Like, and it's all based on how much time they get to spend with them and their introduction to them, and then how kids take them in. It's the nature and nurture side, and you can really put kids on a roller coaster ride that they don't need to go through. And it's all because you skipped those original steps, I think. Like, and that's, I mean, there's a lot of people that have kids out of wedlock. I had a child out of wedlock. I mean, we didn't plan our child, but we raised her perfectly and she grew up great. we've never had an issue with it on that side, but it's only because we were on the same basis when it came to raising children. We didn't want to fight in front of we never wanted to fight in front of anybody. Like, we never, even if we had disagreements, we would talk it out when we were ready to, because we knew, all right, I know I'm a little more hot-headed. I like to talk about things right when they're on my mind, and then I have to adjust and match my significant other. Sometimes she likes to think on things more than I do. And like I said, that's why I consider myself hot-headed. I'm a little emotionally responsive, where I'm like, oh, okay, this is how I feel right now. I need to express it. And it's a balance that you have to have in any kind of relationship. And I know I just kind of rambled for a minute, but it's
the masculine urge to express whatever is within you, especially when it's fiery. And I think that that's something that I have had to put a lot of energy into, to try to address situations when I'm cooled off. And it's really hard to do that. And it's also, like I said, it's not necessarily natural. It's not like the typical masculine energy. We are problem solvers, and when something pisses us off, we want to address it immediately, you know? But I think that there is a lot to be taken from sitting on something as well.
Yeah, I think they're both good. They're both good energies to have. And when I say I act emotionally, and you could probably vouch for this. So in grappling, what I like to do is I like to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, and I actually relate it more to thinking on my feet. I like to have an answer to things if I can, or I'll just be honest and say I don't know the answer to this. I don't want to guess in between, but I'll put myself in awkward situations so I get more comfortable there. Sure. Like, for me, that's the whole idea of hallucinogens. Like, I put myself in uncomfortable situations so that the real world, quote unquote, isn't as stressful as I think it would be. Like, I'm not putting as much emphasis on a lot of things, and I think it's the same in a relationship. Like, it's understanding where people's boundaries are, their levels, and then matching it, because you got to be at the same rhythm. I think everything comes down to rhythm and harmonies and music at the base of everything. Vibrations. I think everything really, the chemistry is always there. It's just the timing, getting things right.
Absolutely, yeah. It is all about timing within the relationships. And it could be related back to grappling. Speaking of grappling, though, just to get back to your initial point, you said that you like to be comfortable. I would say that you're anything but comfortable when you're grappling. You're the bear.
Well, I know, but like I want to be comfortable. Like I want to be comfortable with your arms around my neck because I'm comfortable knowing that I can get out of that. That's what
I'm
that's.
talking about grappling with you is uncomfortable.
Well, I'm sorry about that. Kind of. Let's see. We actually got some good questions coming in. Let's see. Talk. You need the same. Look at what you want for the future. Yeah, exactly. Talk as much as you can. Get it out between each other and get to that same understanding. Let's see. Bossman says there's no such thing as common law marriage. It's a myth. It's not a myth. It's accepted in a few states in the United States.
Yeah, it is actually a legal thing. My dad was common law married with his wife. With his, I should say, second wife.
Let's see. Nature Unpacked. Is it bad if one parent is more open about court cases regarding divorce than another? I feel like I have developed a bad rap about my dad because of what my mom tells me about what happened. Yeah, because you're probably only getting one perspective, and it sounds like one parent feels like that's not something that needs to be put on a kid's shoulders, because it sounds like a picking sides thing. Like if I was ever not with my significant other, I would have never go out of my way to talk bad about her. There'd be no reason to.
I never say anything to my kids negatively about my ex. I mean, if I was kind of always taught, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all.
Exactly. If I think somebody's doing bad, I lie and I say they're doing great. Like I'm never going to just downplay somebody for no reason.
I also think a big part of co-parenting is not making the other parent look bad. That's super important. And the other part of co-parenting is not wanting to make it hard on the other parent.
You should build them up and they should build you up. There should be no, and that way, when a serious decision is made, like say a kid comes to one parent about something and then comes to the other parent, if they're not in communication, like you could get two different answers. Like it's you still have to work together in parenting regardless if you get along or not. That's why I always say if you skip that first step, you have to avoid the bleed through into your kids' lives. Like you've created another obstacle that you now have to work on, and it's going to make you a stronger person regardless. And I think the hardest thing for me to get to in my life is it doesn't matter how many, like say me and my significant other weren't together and she was with somebody else. I would have to, I've gotten to a point where it's just like, I can't have a problem with more people caring about my daughter and her life and the people in her life. Like I can't get mad about more people caring about my family.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. It takes so long to get.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is you really can't, because my personal example, my ex-wife has a partner, he has a daughter. So his daughter is close with my kids and they're like all family, and that's beautiful. I can't be upset about that in any capacity. I'm glad that it's such a positive environment and that's the way it should be, so you should never have animosity towards somebody because they're doing well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because it's your own personal, like I honestly do this with, because I know we're just talking about significant others right now, but like, this is something I do in all relationships. Like, and this might seem like an insignificant relationship to a lot of other people, but like it all depends on how much merit you put into it. My relationship with people that I talk to online is different than, all my other relationships, and how much merit I give things that people say, like, can really control like how you go about your day. It's like there's so many things that I have to let I brush off in my online relationships, because people will say things just to try to get your goat and everything like that, and it comes to like, I don't know, you have to get to a certain level of comfort with talking to people and awkward situations where you can just let things roll off. Like I've ran into so many people where it's actually been like, oh, I want to block everybody that says something bad about me, and I want them to disappear. And I'm like, oh, you're just making it worse. I was like, they're gonna double down. Like all of a sudden, you got robots in your chat, and they're making fun. Like people look for weakness, and they do it in all relationships. It's so they can, like we were talking about before, construct a dynamic in a relationship. Whether you're talking about like a boss and a worker or anything, like you can't put too much emphasis on how you want it to go. It has to be more organically. It's like when like a dad or a mom is like trying to be best friends with their kid rather than being a parent. I think there's a balance to that too. It's just like, yeah, it would be great to have that. Oh, we can hang out and talk about whatever, but at the same time, they also have to know, like, hey, this is a parent. Like they are going to guide me the right way as well. They're not just here to hang out. Like it's a weird. I don't know how to describe it. I can't put it to words. The different levels of how relationships work and making sure the power dynamics are right, and reaching a partnership rather than a power dynamic.
Yeah,
especially
right. Even with your kids, you don't want to be the tyrant, right? You want to be a benefactor to them. You want them to do well, and you also want them to be themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can't stifle a kid's creativity because you're trying to live vicariously through them, like putting them into sports that you wanted to do when you were younger, or emphasizing, like there's little things like that people don't even realize they're doing. Like
you can't force your hobbies or your profession on your children, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that was one of my things that when I had a kid, I was like, oh, I don't want them ever to do grappling or any sports. Like I was totally against the idea of it. And if I had a boy, I was never going to let him do grappling and or school wrestling specifically, because I don't know. I saw so many parents push their kids into sports that they didn't want to be in. And I didn't want to have that kind of influence. So I thought I'd be like, oh, they have to really convince me that they want to go do this before I even discuss it with them.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah, you really want to maybe have them give you a list of reasons that they want to do it, the reasons they should do it.
It doesn't. I don't know the exact definition of it, boss man, but common law marriage is a thing. I know there's probably specific rules to how it's implicated, but yeah, it's usually after living together for 5 to 7 years. It can be recognized by either party, I believe. Prospector says, "What's the best way to resolve an aggressive relationship?" I would try to make you define what you mean by an aggressive relationship.
Yeah, because that could mean a couple different things. I mean, an aggressive relationship in the way that it's moving quickly, or aggressive in the way that the partner is like abusive.
Yeah, like because if it's abuse, you just got to get out of it. You can't let love distract you. You can't let love, because it would be lust, right? You can't say that you're staying in an abusive relationship if it's not lust.
And that's a little bit of Stockholm syndrome when you think that you are in love with your captor, basically. So I mean, if it is actually like an aggressive, like physical situation, you just got to get out.
Or trying, like we said, or staying together because of kids or something like that. Like it's you're giving up something of yourself or your own boundaries in order to reach that point. Yeah. Like you do care about your personal safety, but why are you giving up the thought of your personal safety for what?
Exactly. And I mean, if there's kids involved, then you got to get them out of there too. So.
Well, no, I'm saying when there's kids involved, sometimes people will stay around because they're like, oh, I got to stay together for the kids, and we don't want to have a broken home and this and that. And it's just like, well, no, the kids are going to grow up healthier if they're not in a home where people can't coexist.
Well, that's why I'm kind of arguing for the side. Like you got to get them out of there. That's the thing. You really like. Yeah.
Is hopefully Prospector can give us an update on that. Bossman says there's a common misconception that if you live together for a certain length of time, 7 years is what many people believe, you're a common law marriage. This is not true anywhere in the United States. I agree.
That's an interesting kind of a trolly kind of statement.
Yeah, it's probably down to specific definitions of like what you'd have to do to find it recognized. But what I'm saying is you can get it recognized after you live together for that period of time.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Battle of semantics, but yeah, you 100% can follow through with that.
Yeah. I agree. A license is different, but common law does exist in the courts. Oh, I thought you were saying it doesn't exist. It does exist in the court. It does, but not as simply as living together. Yeah, because eventually you'd have to get it recognized. It would just be easier to recognize a common law marriage, especially if people have been living together, if they're on bills together, if they're on a lease together. Like, there's a lot more evidence that they have been together, supporting each other, and of course, the marriage system would want you get you into the tax system as a couple. Yeah. Yeah, Stonewolf. It always comes back to that. Again, talk will be the best relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, it is all about talking because, we can maybe reach a level of telepathy, but unless you're actually able to understand how that person's mind works, it's not going to happen. So you need to at least have a talking point in your relationship where you are able to openly communicate.
Like if the other partner is arguing for little things for no reason and then starts a huge argument.
It may be a bit of a red flag that they're over it.
Yeah, or they're looking for excuses.
Or could be poking and prodding you to see if you have any substance to you. They could be wanting to see what kind of a fire you have and to see whether or not you want it or not. That's another possibility, psychologically speaking.
Yeah, but that comes back to the weird power dynamics, which I don't think are appropriate in a partnership. So
that is true, but I mean, it's human nature in a certain way to see how your partner is going to respond to certain things. But it can definitely be taken to a level like that would be considered toxic. Yeah.
Yeah, where it gets unhealthy.
Yeah.
And gosh, I would say it definitely would come down to talking and getting to a point of understanding of, okay, I do want to address these things if they're bugging you, but are they really bugging you? Is this something that needs to be escalated to the point that it's being escalated because I don't feel comfortable with where it's getting to, especially if these are just simple things where it's little things that could be resolved elsewhere. Like they don't have to lead to a big argument, but if it always leads to that and you've already communicated, then it seems like a little more of a setup.
But I will say that if you address it directly in that capacity, you could be asking for an all-out flame session.
Oh yeah, I think when you find yourself in those situations, that the best thing to do is to write down responses to each other. Like actually, like write it down on a piece of paper. Hey, this is how I'm feeling about this, and just hand it to the other person because it doesn't get into let me cut this person off and say what I want to say. I'm not even listening to what they're saying. Like you have to read it. Like in order to get a response and manipulate it, like come up with a response to what they're saying, you'd have to read it all. But when you're talking, sometimes if it's an argument, you're just waiting for the other person to stop talking. You're not actually taking it in. And this is how I get with debates and everything else. If you're not taking in what the other person is saying, you've already lost any kind of an argument or debate or anything like that because you're coming in ill prepared because your rebuttals are already set in your head.
And
like if you save something up.
Specifically for that reason, I think that's what makes the writing down on paper a good idea over texting, because the immediacy of texting makes it way too easy to just start saying a bunch of shit in an angry way. And that's not how you need to communicate within a relationship. And you have to think about what your goal is with the communication. And of course, that should be clarity. So I think that, yeah, writing your thoughts down on a piece of paper and then perhaps having them write a response back on that piece of paper would be
Right.
A very healthy way to approach.
And you guys can both present the first piece. Like, it's like, okay, if you're upset about some little things, tell me what you're upset about. I want to totally understand what you're upset about, so maybe we can get to the bottom of this, because it works on both sides. If the guy or the girl is getting upset about little things and it's turning into arguments, hey, let's nip this in the butt and figure out what it is. Write down what you want me to work on. If it involves me, if it doesn't involve me, tell me how I can help you with it. Like, there's ways you can meet people halfway, but I do think the writing thing is great when you're getting in arguments too much, because then there could be a pattern of arguing where you're not taking in each other's sides, or there's a pattern of reverting back to old things that aren't really relevant. That happens a lot too in relationships. Sometimes people harbor things from a long time ago, and they'll bring it up for ammunition. And it's like, it's another one of those power dynamic things where you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be trying to get the leg up on the other person if you're actually trying to get to solving a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it says in the Bible that love doesn't keep score.
Exactly. That's a good answer too. If love doesn't keep score, then neither should you.
No.
And unless you're doing it for your own personal test of like, okay, I might be getting used in this relationship. There's nothing wrong with addressing your own personal boundaries and keeping score in that way. Like, is this a give and take relationship? You should know how things are going.
But yeah, love doesn't keep score in the way of, you did this wrong. I'm going to hold this against you forever. As you're saying, in cyclical arguments, that's not love. That's control.
Exactly. Yeah. Nature Unpacked says, do you guys think testing someone is an appropriate thing in a relationship?
Testing someone. Do I think it's appropriate? No. I don't think that it's appropriate. I know that it happens.
Human characteristic?
It is a human characteristic. Because there's going to be times where either your partner aggravates you in some capacity and you're going to say something that will get a rise out of them, so you want to see what their response is, or there may be a point of boredom within the relationship where your partner is doubtful of your substance and wants to see what there is behind your mask, and will poke you for that reason. But generally speaking, no, I don't think that it's actually a healthy thing to provoke conflict unnecessarily when something could be handled in a calmer capacity.
Yeah, I agree. So I do think it's it's something that probably happens subconsciously, but yeah, you should be able to address it and know when you're like, oh, okay, I'm making this worse. Like, this test isn't actually accomplishing anything besides.
Right, that actually comes back to, what is the goal of communication? Sometimes I've gotten better about it. In relationships, you just need to ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve here? Before you open your mouth, if you are arguing with your partner, run through your head with your statement and think if the thing that you're about to say aligns with what your goal is. Because generally speaking, if there's conflict with your partner, the goal should be to resolve it, not to fan the fire and add fuel to the flames, right? So you should ultimately be thinking about, like I said, what you want to accomplish with your words, what meaning you want to convey, and what information you want to ascertain from your partner as well. And people are not going to answer your questions if you're closing them up,
Yeah, it's the openness, it's the talking. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's understanding the other person and yourself. I mean, on the simplest like terms. And I think it's good that whoever in the chat was that I asked about like the time frame of it and when do you know? And she's like, you'll know when you know. Like it's one of those feelings that you know when it's there because you're surprised by it, and it does actually make that easy for you. It's like when you know when you're in love, and especially when you know yourself enough to know the difference between lust and love. Like
You know,
that's the balance too.
there's a beautiful quote that says, and it's kind of a conversation, right? And it says, the boy says to the old man, I don't believe in magic. And the old man says, you will when you see her. And yeah, I can't really, I can't advocate that more, really. I think that when you know, and there's right time, right place, and sometimes things align, and that's not to say, unfortunately, that's not to say that this thing is going to be permanent either.
Okay, you made me think of the perfect question. Okay, is love at first sight a real thing?
I think love at first knowing is a real thing. I don't think that you can look at somebody's face and love them, and like actually like feel true love for that person. That would be lust, I believe. Because I don't know what else it possibly could be. I mean, you might feel a spark if there is some type of soul connection between the two of you. You might feel some spark and you might recognize something within the other person, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that was like immediately falling in love. That's just immediately recognizing your person. So there, I think that there would still be a point of falling in love after that.
I think it would have to be physical attraction. I don't think there can be anything more at first sight than physical attraction because, like you said, it's the knowing. It's not the everything else would be lust.
Yeah.
And because I do think relationships can be established with somebody that you're not attracted to if you get to know them. But that's not your first thought.
Right. The only caveat to that I do believe is, as I said, if there's some type of soul relationship between the two of you, because I am kind of a proponent of like soul contracts where we have these sort of relationships with people through our soul, whether they could be a soulmate or you have like a twin flame or your karmic partner. Those are kind of the three generally agreed upon terms. So, and a soulmate does not have to be a loved one. Soulmate could be family. It could be a friend. I mean, soulmate could be your bro. It doesn't have to be something that's romantic. Soulmate can be totally platonic. Whereas twin flame is more so like two people that are cut from the same cloth, and then that fabric's never going to be made again. And then karmic partners come into your life sort of to teach you lessons, and they'll keep coming until you learn the repeated lessons. So with all that in mind, I do think that if there's some type of a soul relationship between the two of you, that there will be some type of a spark that ignites, and that you become aware of. But I also don't know if I would say that itself is love. I think that is simply a spark and simply a recognition of souls.
So, what do you think about people? What do you think about the term opposites attract? Because I do think there is a yin to a yang, and I do think that people that are too similar tend to butt heads more. Do you believe that people that are very similar could have a relationship together as partners, or do you think it has to be a balanced thing, or do you think it's just based on situation?
I think it is a bit situational, but it also has to do with how deeply each partner has come to know themselves. Because if you have two extremely mentally healthy and stable people who are very similar, they should be able to come together. However, I do see the possibility of arrogance or ego stepping in and then butting heads when they kind of have disagreements about their shared interests. Because something will come up somewhere along the line where they're like, I don't know if I agree with that. And that will then become a tipping point potentially. So I think that if they, like I said, have met themselves deeply internally, then potentially that could become a healthy relationship. But I do tend more so to look at opposites attract, yin yang. I don't think that you need an overabundance of one energy. You want to have two pieces that mix together and fit together beautifully, so that you have more of your horizon covered, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, because otherwise, I think you do. I mean, because you can have the same idea, like situationally, I think you can have the same ideas and still bump heads on things. And I think those can be your roller coasters in a relationship of getting to know each other. But yeah, those take specific energies, kind of like what you're talking about. Those take specific energies to blend the same way. It takes two people that want that same energy. You know, it's not because not everybody's looking for a yin and a yang. I guess that's the best way I could think about it. They're not all looking for that same feeling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some people just want somebody just like them, and that's interesting. You might look at that person psychologically speaking and wonder if there's narcissistic tendencies there. But I also think that perhaps that person is looking for the comfort of something known. So they could be coming at it from different angles, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and they should be. Like, it would be weird if everybody thought the same way, and that's the beauty of relationships, is that everybody's so different, and
Well, I mean,
that's
if
the significance of your significant other.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, and that's the significance of your significant other, is like, out of all the people I could be with, like, this is the one I feel like is the match. Like, that's what makes it so important, is that people are so different and you found the one, like, for you. And I think that takes forever. I think, well, I mean, it doesn't take forever to find. Like, sometimes you can find it right away, but it takes forever to sometimes know. Like, I think it takes some time to set in of, oh wow, like looking back at things and just being like, oh wow, this was perfect, or this was exactly what I wanted, and maybe I didn't recognize it right away. And there's a lot of that too when it comes to relationships. Sometimes what's great isn't noticed until it's been in front of you for a little while, or maybe when it's gone. Maybe some people felt like they were with their significant other and then they lost it. Like, but as long as you can still say, hey, I care about this person so much that as long as they're happy, I'm happy. Like, you can have that with a significant other, and you could want the best for people all the time. Like, there's no reason that it should be a roadblock in your life either.
Yeah. And I mean, that can really suck. It can
Oh yeah,
suck having that kind of caring for somebody so deeply that, yeah, you still want what's best for them regardless. But that is love. That is actually,
because you can have love without lust.
yeah, you can. Yeah. So, you know, that's interesting. That, yes, I mean, when you truly want the best for somebody, even after your relationship ends, I mean, even though you're not together, that is still love.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
And I think that, like, say you're talking about parents that aren't together, like we were talking about in the chat earlier. Like, say parents are having trouble coexisting. I think there's a level of love to coexisting with somebody that you might not lust for. Like we were just talking about in that other example, working with somebody, it's just a different type of relationship. It's not that it's not a relationship. It still is a relationship, and it still needs to be taken care of like any other relationship. And
You're saying there's different types of relationships, but even in romantic sense, There are some sexless relationships that are not loveless still. Which
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just personal. And it's just personal preference.
Right.
They,
And I
they,
think it could be in the capacity that they, and we're talking about different forms of love here. So it could be in the capacity that it's a stay together for the kids thing, which might not be ideal, but that they both have like a mutual respect for one another or something like that.
They both know that, and you can know that you do better with somebody else. But still, maybe after you guys get through things, you still want to try out things and get to know yourself better. There's nothing wrong with like, however you pursue finding yourself first too, because you could meet the right person and might not be ready at the time.
Absolutely.
Like,
that brings to mind the concept of the twin flame, because with twin flames, you often have a runner and a chaser. So you'll have somebody who perhaps isn't totally ready for that intense of a relationship, because the twin flame relationship is quite an intense interaction of energy, right? Because it's the same energy. So in the yin yang aspect, their personality traits may be very different, but at the core, you recognize all the deep similarities between the two of you, right? And that soul connection. So yeah, I think that you can, even within having differences, you still, like, people can have their differences and still be like a twin flame and still be the same in a certain capacity, you know?
Well, and that the commonality between you could just be the end goal. It doesn't necessarily have to be the route of getting there.
Right.
Like, if you guys have the same future in mind and you're open for trying it with a significant other and you're open for the mystery of how are we going to get there, but I'm happy to enjoy the ride with the person that I'm with, like that's a commonality that you could find where you still could be a twin flame. It doesn't necessarily have to be the yin and the yang, because like any relationship, you're going to have your ups and downs where you don't agree on things, but that's how you come to better understandings of the other person.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, if you have gone through your relationship for years and years and you've never had any type of conflict within your relationship, how strong actually is your relationship?
Yeah, there's a communication barrier there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So ideally, well, and this is actually interesting. I've been reading a lot about healthy relationship dynamics and watching a lot of different videos, a lot of Jordan Peterson videos. And there's this concept of positive to negative interactions. And there was a study done, and the study shows that if you fall below 5 positive to 1 negative interaction, because you have the two partners rate each interaction that they have throughout the day with the other partner. And then at the end of the day, for the study, they came to see the number of positive to negative interactions. So a lasting relationship will have at least 5 positive interactions to 1 negative. And if it slips under that, the relationship will fall apart. But oddly enough, and this ties into what I was saying earlier, oddly enough, the study showed that if you go over 11 positive interactions to 1 negative, the relationship also deteriorates. And that's because there's simply nothing to it. It's completely comfortable doormat. And that's why sometimes within the human psyche, we will push our partner to see what kind of substance they have.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And I don't think the testing nature is wrong. Just because it's something it's kind of like why somebody would dress up or wear makeup, because they want to feel loved in a relationship. They want to feel appreciated, and they could do it through 1,000 different ways of expression. And sometimes it's done through testing of, hey, is this what I think it is? Is this person attracted to me or want to be with me for the right reasons? And that could be as little as the test, and it might actually, you're thinking about it because it's done to somebody else, that it's not an internal test. it's actually an internal test the whole time. Like, it's just done externally to try to get live results. Like, it's all a personal thing of, I think, coming down to wanting to feel loved on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes if it feels like it's passed over, that's when the tests come in.
Wanting to feel loved in the ways that you want love, right? Because I think that the love languages are also really important. You were talking about acts of service earlier, and I think that being sure that you know how to address your partner's needs is understanding their love languages, and
Exactly.
knowing.
And know that, I mean, everybody knows if you've been in a relationship more than 3 weeks, you'll know that it's not all physical. There's a whole bunch of different levels to meeting needs.
Yeah, after the 2-3 week mark, you're done just hanging out in the bedroom, and then you realize there's more to the relationship.
Right. The honeymoon stage, as they like to say.
Now, that's also an interesting concept in and of itself, because we were talking earlier about love and about how, you're putting things into your relationship, right? So the concept of the honeymoon phase kind of belittles that to a certain capacity, but it's also to deny that it also does exist.
Yeah, I think it belittles what we think of relationships, and I think it's an example of blind love.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it could be an example of going into a relationship without understanding the other person's needs, because you can get into a relationship for the reasons of lust, and then when it comes into the love department, you might not see eye to eye anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could only imagine, like, being in a relationship because of lust, and then all of a sudden one day you're sitting around and somebody's watching, whatever political thing on TV, whatever side, it doesn't matter, and then you realize, oh, my significant other is the exact opposite of me. Like, I could only imagine that conversation. I think those are so entertaining to me, and then seeing how people get, because it might work out great. Maybe that's why you guys get along so well. It's because you guys both have different perspectives, and you like to hear the other person's perspective because you never would have thought about it before. Maybe that's.
It might work for a while.
I think if you have two people that are good at communicating, anything can work.
That's true. I went on a date with a woman who was espousing beliefs different than mine, and I told her a little bit about how I felt about those, about those concepts, ideas, and just, very respectively stated my opinions, right? Not disregarding hers or anything like that. But that was kind of the end of it. It was kind of the end.
Stone Wolf, you want to join us? I would like to have a 30-year married man to have this conversation with us as well, if you'd like to join us.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to have you on. Let me share the link real quick, and you can join us if you'd like. I think we're going to try to end it. We got another half hour, so if anybody has any ideas that they want to shell on us that they haven't popped in yet, feel free to jump in and let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah. Always happy to get the feedback or questions.
Right. Or if you just want to tell us what you guys thought of the show, feel free to tell us in the chat.
Or what you got in your relationship.
Oh yeah. Anything that works.
Here for it.
Yeah. I like, even if it's a bad, like, there's nothing wrong with talking about a bad relationship or something like that, because as long as you learned something from it, it was a learning experience. Like, I say the same thing. It's weird that I go back to hallucinogens all the time, but I do, because, like, that's, like, I think the most educational hallucinogenic experiences are the ones that scare the shit out of you. Are the ones that make you go back and think about what's going on and question things, because those are more powerful than, I think, any time that you're doing something to have fun. Like, when you're actually questioning your ideas, your beliefs, and stuff like that, it's the way of getting to know yourself that we're talking about and coming into relationships. Like, you do really need to know yourself before you can never fully understand anyone else.
I would probably suggest taking about 2 grams of dried mushrooms in a dark room and just setting aside.
I would never suggest that. We're on YouTube. I can't suggest those things. I was telling about my personal experiences. You're more than welcome to talk about your own personal experience, but I would never suggest people do hallucinogens on the internet.
Sarcasm, I suppose. But I will say that coming to know oneself is probably the first requirement of a relationship, however you do that. And I think that without having knowledge of like your worldviews, your desires from a relationship, you're just kind of wasting time if you're not going to approach things like from a mature perspective like that.
You know, I've been listening to you guys for the last hour and a half or so, and I'll tell you what, for a couple of young punks, you guys are hitting it pretty well on the head. I mean, I'm impressed.
Well, thank you.
I mean, you're dead on. Communication is the top one. I still epically fail at this. But I'm still married. My wife and I are doing something we both like. And we're not even close to the same kind of people. Not even close.
But
you talk about yin and yang, that's us, you know.
But it sounds like you acknowledge any of your shortcomings, and you're like, "This is what I'm working on," which is
you
good
think
for
I
anyone.
have shortcomings? Oh, you're in trouble now.
No, when you said I'm not good at communication, you acknowledge that that's what you could work on, you know, and you're making passive things to try to improve it.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, no, not those kind of shortcomings. I wouldn't call you out on that. I don't know anything about that.
The communication has always been an issue. You know, I got married when I was 39 or 29. Sorry. Had my first kid at 30. And my second kid at 31. That was it for me. I'm 2 in, 2 out. That's the way I look at life, you know. I don't know about any kids I don't have or anything like that, you know. I did have sex in my younger days. But the wife we met, we weren't even close to the same people. And it was just like, and we clicked. We had the same plans looking forward through the future. And yeah, we still fight. We still argue once in a while.
So it sounds like you have your differences, but you also had shared life goals or life views.
Yeah, the goals are, I can't stress that one enough. I talked about it earlier in chat. You gotta, if you're gonna meet somebody and you're gonna get through that mask, you gotta look at the goals. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you want to see yourself in 10 years? And that's the first thing my wife and I worked through. And then it was 20 years, then it was 30 years. And here we are at 30 years, and we're nomads running around the freaking country doing whatever the hell we want, you know?
Love that.
And it's rough, don't get me wrong. It's still the same issues we'd have if we were sitting in a homestead, you know, like we had. No change there.
It's the idea that you guys want to go through that together. You have the same end goal, and you're like, this is the person I want to go on this ride with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I went back to California for the holidays because I could have my kids fly down from Washington to California easy enough, cheap enough, you know. And so we spent a couple of weeks over there for the holidays, and it's like, no, let's get out of California. The only reason we were there is for that family aspect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because you have to. You got to keep that relationship strong as well. You got to know what the kids are up to. You got to gotta know that they gotta know that you're there for them whenever they need you. You know.
Well,
It's-
I had one
Oh, yeah.
son come down. He spent a week sitting right next to me playing computer games, same as me. You know, the other one came down. He stayed the night. Went up to a New Year's party up somewhere. Came back and stayed a few hours for the day, and it was just great to have them.
But everybody bonds in different ways. You could be sitting there playing computer games with your kid and be just as bonding as the guy that wants to play catch with his kid. Maybe your kid doesn't want to play catch.
Well,
We were
I play
talking
catch
about,
with my kids, so
We were talking about love languages earlier. I mean, that's totally another type of quality time. That to different people,
it
quality
is.
time.
It can, as long as you're sitting close.
Yeah,
I can
right.
touch you on the shoulder.
Yep. Right.
That's
If you're
close.
sitting, so yeah, exactly. You can be sitting down together doing completely different things, but
Yeah.
if you're sitting together, that is quality time. But
Well,
now,
you got to remember, your mind does not work like mine. We
Yeah,
can
right.
sync our minds up like video games. You want to play this one? You want to play that one? I want to play this one. Every once in a while, there's a game. Let's play it together. And that's kind of the way the relationship works too. Is you got to pick those times when you're playing together.
Oh yeah.
Use them.
interesting.
Whether you're doing separate things, like you're saying, and sitting right next to each other. She's watching some stupid sitcom, and I'm sitting over here watching a movie. You know.
Yeah.
So be it. That's what you are. I mean, as long as you're there together, and you see a lot of those posts on Facebook with people just staring at their cell phones.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the person next to them staring at the cell phone, and they're not interacting. Well, in a way, they still are. Because
Yeah,
they are sitting next to each other.
There's a balance to that too. You could also be drowning each other out and
Oh,
not
easy, yeah.
Sometimes, sharing memes can be a love language. So it's possible that people are, looking for photos to share with the other person, but you never really know. I mean, I've seen those same photos where, you got a young couple out on a date maybe, and they're both on their phone. And
I couldn't see that happening. I barely even use my phone, but I'm an old man. I didn't grow up like you guys did with a phone.
well, I can tell you it does happen.
I know it does. I mean, I've been around my kids enough. I know it does. Where my kid's sitting there with his girlfriend, and they're both just sitting there on their phones, not even communicating. And it's like, okay, I get that, but why are you sitting next to each other doing this? If you're gonna sit next to each other, I've got my arm over here. I'm touching you.
Well, I think
There's a difference.
That could be a modern expression of trust, kind of, because you're both like using your phones next to each other. You're not hiding anything. I think that,
I grew up from a generation there was nothing to hide.
so. I mean,
I know what you're saying, though.
The highest
Right?
form.
I've got
of
my phone tipped this way because I don't want you to see what I'm doing.
To me, I think that the highest form of trust in a modern relationship is when a woman puts her cell phone in your back pocket to keep it safe. That is a very high form of trust because she trusts you that, and you know that you can trust her.
Yeah, that's her life. I know my wife's cell phone is her life. I use a computer. So my cell phone just sucks.
Oh yeah, well, and especially if you're used to using the computer, you're probably more. You grew up on computer games and stuff too, Tony.
I grew up with Atari and Pong.
Yeah,
but no, you told me you played computer games when they came out. Like you were into. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're just more fluid on the computer for your electronics.
My wife knows more about computers than I could ever think of, and I used to build the damn things.
Oh wow!
And yeah, I mean, it's crazy. She's a tech one. She's web designer, graphic designer, tech guru. And it's like, yeah, I don't know shit compared to you. I can put these things together because I know how they plug in.
So I have a question.
I think it started in like the 2000s though too. Like there was this point where like people would be in the same house with each other, and instead of just being like, "Hey, come downstairs," they'd send a text up to the person upstairs. Like there
That
was like a
becomes
level of like,
problem.
yeah, of oh okay, I can avoid communication by doing this, and it's like I think there is something to verbal communication and face to face communication. Like I get like when I'm online, I can't always be face to face with these people, and this
Yeah,
is
right.
kind of middle ground. But it would be great to have everybody in a studio and actually get people's one-on-one reactions, and it'd be a little more real. But
You know, I feel about it. I don't like to leave my avatar up like a lot of people do in lives. I
yeah,
want you to see me and how I'm dealing with it, the conversation, everything. I want you to see it all, even if I'm drunker and skunk, which happens. Not tonight.
no, I'm exactly the same way. That's why I named my channel Jacob Waters. I didn't want to hide behind a title, and then I also didn't want to get pigeonholed in a box of, oh, the show is called this, and this is what he's supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I started my channel on my name. It was Tony Hildebrand. That was the name of my channel. I got like
'cause
300,
you're a pretty real person,
300
Tony.
subs, no problem on that. You know, no, I could have probably kept going. You know, with no big deal. And it's like, no, I don't really want to put my name on the YouTube site. So I went for Stone Wolf Outdoors, which is rock hounding outdoors.
But that's because regardless, when people have a conversation with you or see you do a live, you come off as a real genuine person. There is no facade.
I
You're
don't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Stone Wolf, I'd like to show you some cool stuff. I got some Vanadinite from Mibladen, Morocco here.
oh yeah, you guys
How
you guys what you
Oh,
guys
I
could
can't
talk.
boot him off here. Damn it.
You guys would be talking minerals for days. Stone collects a lot, and he's always showing them off. He's always got his Tumblr running, and he's
Oh
constant.
man,
Okay.
let me find the camera.
Oh yeah.
What's that one?
I don't know. I found this bugger, and I thought it was going to be mine because I'm still looking for my own personal rock. I make all this. I make the necklace. I make the wire wrap on the rocks. I've got rocks. You can probably hear them tumbling in the background, maybe. But I thought I found my rock. I was wrong.
How did you know it wasn't? How did you know it wasn't your rock? I gotta ask, since we're on relationship.
It didn't feel for me.
It has to give you the eye.
Yeah, I mean, I wear a rock around my neck. This is
Sure.
a dark red carnelian agate that somebody carved into a tooth, and I'm still wearing on the same chain that I bought it with. But it's not my rock. It's just
Prospector, to answer your question, yes, I am still doing a live show after this on Instagram. Yeah.
like
Nice.
gem show.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
sell gemstones on Instagram.
Cool.
That's why
You
I
find
just
them yourself, or
Yeah, what's that?
you find them yourself?
No, most of these are from different countries.
Okay.
Yeah, most of these are from
I'm
different
just
countries.
asking. I mean,
No, so I'm going out on a big mining trip in the spring. I'm planning on going out to both Herkimer County in New York for some Herkimer diamonds, and then I'm also going to be looking for fluorite in places you're not supposed to look. So can't talk too
oh
much.
yeah, I understand that one. Herkimers, that's awesome.
Yep.
Hope you
Yep.
get lucky and get something of size, or
Yeah, looking for those big vuggy pockets, you know. So
Prospector, thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad Joey was able to share it with you and get you guys connected.
yeah, I'm super stoked just to have people on here. You know, it's just fun to be able to talk about various topics with you. You know, Jake, and I like to be able to share that with people because it's like there's so many different ways to look at this world, and on here we always get different perspectives, and it's like really really fun. So.
I'm gonna argue with that.
Well,
come
and
up
I
with Jake
pride
a
myself.
lot, so
I kind of pride myself at making people question their ideas and double down and tell me why they believe the way they believe, whatever it's about, whether it's conspiracies, whether it's relationships, whether it's whatever. I would rather genuinely how you feel and you can express why you feel that way. And if I can
Well,
get
that,
people to do that in a
make them feel
conversation,
comfortable and feel open enough to do so.
that's the
exactly.
Which you have done with me. I've opened up to you on quite a few things, and
And
I
that
don't
is-
regret a thing. So
And Tony, it's funny. Like I've met a few people from Jake's show. Like, and I had a relationship with Jake, and that's how me and you met. And I think I've had deeper conversations with you coming from Jake's show than anybody I've ever actually had like conversations with. Because you're an open person, you're a real person, and I can get that from you. Like there's no facade there.
it's harder to hide things than it is to just let them out.
Yeah,
Simple as
true.
that.
there's a beautiful saying: if you always tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
You don't have to remember the lie. Yeah.
You don't have to remember anything. Exactly. And it's a lot easier that way for sure.
You just be.
I mean, I will say, you're talking about the relationship stuff. I like to be outdoors. As Jake knows, I live outside. I'm outside right now and it's kind of cold at 50 degrees. But my wife's the opposite. She has to be inside with the heat, the AC, and all of that. I'm always outside, so I deal with the environment as it delivers me. Where I'm at. I'm a nomad, so I'm always moving. And the wife loves it because we have this really nice motorhome that can do all her aspects, you know. She wants the microwave, she wants the TV, she wants the heat, the air conditioning, and stuff like that. Well, she's got it all here.
Yeah.
The kitchen is right behind me, as Jake knows. It's
That's
always
awesome.
right behind me. That's where my kitchen is. I cook outside. I do all my cooking outside.
But
Everything.
you know why your relationship works so well is because it's important for you to have the mobile home as well as the cot that you are sleeping on.
Well, I'm sleeping in the hammock right now, but yeah.
Well,
You know,
whatever you're sleeping on, you're just as worried that your significant other has what they're comfortable in.
Yeah. Well, she's got a queen size bed in the motorhome and, you know, plumbing.
Right.
That was always the big one early on in our relationship. She didn't want to go these trips with me because there was no plumbing. You know,
Sure.
Exactly.
A
You
toilet
gotta
that don't flush is not the same as a pit.
So,
Or
Tony,
having to walk around the tree and dig a hole, you know.
oh yeah. So I have a question for you, Tony. So you mentioned that you and your wife are yin and yang, very different,
Oh
but
yeah.
but you make it work. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, in what ways are you different, and what do you do to make it work?
You have to respect the needs of the other. Well, to a point, I still suck at that one too. Well,
Well,
according to my wife, I suck at them all, but
Tony, I think you just expressed it really well, though, when you talked about having the motorhome and like I'm comfortable living outside. Oh, and by the way, I got a motorhome and everything because this is how my wife is comfortable, and this is why we have a motorhome. Like I'm meeting them halfway, and then she doesn't want to sleep outside and shit in a hole. Like we get that, and you respect her boundaries and what she wants out of it, and you still have the same goals in the long run. You guys are meeting each other halfway. I think you express it well. But probably more that we don't see.
Yeah, compromise.
there's a ton of that. But you know, we have our conflicts, you know, where sometimes we'll be sitting doing nothing for a while. And that's hard for me, and that's hard for her. But the things we want to do are absolutely different. So you got to work through that. You know, you got to get that balance. What she want to do? Let's go do that. What do I want to do? I'll go do that. And for me, it's driving my backpack and going gone. You know, and she hates it. because she's
Yeah.
not interested in that or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's it's the personal time that I think everybody needs in a relationship too. There's nothing wrong with. I think time. There's a good saying of time apart makes the heart grow fonder. Everybody needs their own personal time. Like it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not healthy to be a crutch to somebody. You can't be codependent on each other. There's a balance to love as well. You can't not live without the other person.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be completely whole on your own, and then come together as two whole beings.
Well,
Even in a
I
twin.
mean, know thyself. I mean, we all watch The Matrix. We know thyself.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no statement that comes better than that. If you truly don't know yourself, your relationship will not work.
True.
Because the person you're interested in is not going to know you. Because you don't know you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the internal relationship that you haven't figured out yet. Before you can make relationships external, you probably need to know yourself.
Yeah.
Like you might know
it's going to be a struggle for sure.
Well, it's like you might know as a child that your parents love you and they care about you, but you don't understand what love is at that point. Like regardless of if you can acknowledge it and you're still learning about it, like you know your parents care about you, or you may not think they care about you, but
you guys were talking about true love earlier. Yeah, I'm a non-believer in that one. But
we're talking about love at first sight.
Do you want to?
We were talking about love at first sight, Tony, not true love. Well, love at first sight. I know. I think that one's kind of.
I've had too many dogs to talk about true love, I guess.
Do you believe in true love though? Like, do you think that you can find somebody that you that is your true love, your one and only?
Binding eternally. That's what true love is. I don't know if I could do that one.
Could you? What do you think would be a good definition of love?
You have to give, respect, and care. And I think beyond that, you can love anybody. I mean, if you can't do that simple little three things, you can't love. For personal relationship, it's a little different because you want physical. You need that touching.
But I like that
touching. You know,
I like that those are your base things that you need for any kind of love. Like those are throughout any relationship. Physical only becomes a variable in a partnership. Love, somebody.
Come back to your other aspect that you're talking about here, attraction.
Yeah, your lust, your attraction, your physical.
But if you can't give those three things, where are you going?
Right.
I mean, for my wife, my children, and my animals. That's not a hard thing to do. It's just you got to be open to do it.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Well, if you can't do all three things, there's something wrong inside.
And it's reminding me of like for a fire, you need fuel, oxygen, and heat.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those three things, you're not going to have your fire.
It's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
you struggle and struggle. You're still not going to get that fire started.
It's true.
I think
in a relationship, you need to have both of you with those three things.
I think in general, the way I would describe a relationship is very similar to the fire analogy, because I do think physical attraction is something you need. I think you do need that heat in order to
start somewhere.
Yeah, the spark, as they call it.
Yeah.
Like whatever it happens to.
A spark may not start a fire.
Yeah.
But can build to one.
Exactly.
And that, you know, hey, met my wife in a bar.
Well, and that's the
And
idea of
within
feeding.
4 months, we were married.
Oh wow.
And
Well,
a
that's
couple
the
weeks
idea
later,
of-
child on the way, you know, because we had the same goals, even though we weren't have really the same interests. We had the same goals, and we liked each other.
What do you think when you first met your wife? What was the one thing that stood out to you besides physical appearance?
She's smart,
Yeah.
and for
So it's-
somebody like me, that was pretty big.
Got to be smart.
Well, the thing is, I got a pretty high IQ, and dated a lot of dumb shits. You know what I mean? My
Yeah.
wife and I are not on the same level in our intelligence, but we're both smart. And my kids are way smarter than I ever thought about being, which is crazy.
Well, that's because I think that the idea of that type of relationship would be boring to you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and to her.
No, I do think some people will date up in intelligence and enjoy that, like the of knowing that somebody else is going to make all the decisions and be smarter than them. And like, I don't think necessarily the dumb broad is unhappy being with a smart person, or vice versa. The dumb guy is not happy being with a smart girl that will take care of him. Like, some people want that weird dynamic. I think of it as a weirder dynamic. It's not necessarily a weird one. That's just my personal preference of like.
Right.
I don't think, because I think
thought
it's
what I wanted was these hot ass chicks that didn't have no brains. I thought that's what I wanted for many years. Then I found a woman that's actually smart, good looking. It's like, wow, 30 years later, still going.
yeah. Well, I think relationships can get into a weird, like, unhealthy, like, parenting situation where it's like you can tell that they're
parenting was an issue. Don't get me wrong.
no. I'm saying like dynamics when it comes to relationships. Like they talk about girls that date that have dad issues, and there's also guys that date that have mom issues, and they say that guys date somebody similar to their mother, or women trying to replace a man in their life because they didn't have a father figure around. I think those are
Right.
very healthy relationships that need to be addressed, and it's
Well,
hard
that
to.
was one of those things we agreed on right off. We're both going to be there.
Yeah.
And we were.
Yeah, as long as you can co-parent, then you're good. I mean, that's the first step. Knowing where that's going.
I didn't
is
have that. I didn't have parents, so it was like a whole different game for me. And it's like, no, I don't want my kids growing up without this aspect. Have
Yeah,
mom and
you put more
dad
value.
home
You put
every
way
night.
more
You
value.
know?
That's because you valued that because you lacked it when you were younger. It developed you to the thought that you're at today about it.
But it also made me who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I just didn't want my kids to have that. And it was both my kids flew down from Washington to Palm Springs for Christmas. And it was like, hey, both of my kids wanted to do this. You know, how lucky can you be as a parent when your kids want to do something like that? Even though my oldest, he come down and he set up a table right next to me and was playing computer games just like me, like I was saying. Yeah, we're back here chatting back and forth, playing totally different games. Oh my God. I mean, I think he's playing Satisfactory right now. I've got Steam notification. And I've been playing Green Hell.
I don't think I've heard of either one of those games.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them.
Oh, I don't know much about Satisfactory, but Green Hell,
Yeah,
I've been loving the hell out of it.
if you're playing the game, I hope you know a little bit about it. But I'm actually gonna wrap up here. We're at about the 2 hour mark, and I know Joey's got to do another show. Go
Yep.
sell some gems tonight. So
Awesome times, man.
Cool.
I appreciate everybody that tuned in. I hope you guys like the new show idea. We're gonna start doing interviews with single people and giving people a chance to open up about their relationships and what they're looking for in relationships. And we're gonna actually start doing this more regularly. And Joey, you're always welcome on. Tony, you're definitely always welcome on. I like the perspectives of people that have not always the exact same thought process as me, but just a developed thought process about some of these things, because then they can at
Well,
least
we
explore.
know you're underdeveloped, so it's not an issue.
I'm always growing. We're gonna say I'm a grower, not a shower. I'm always expanding my mind in very different ways.
All right, Jake, you have a good night.
Yep. You guys have a good night, and thanks everybody for tuning in.